Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Kudla. I'm president of Tarrytech Computer Consultants. Thank you for joining me for my podcast, Better, Faster, Stronger, where we help move New York Metro businesses forward with tips on motivation, leadership, management, and innovation. Joining us this week is Tom Malone. Tom is the president of Brookfield Resource Management in Elmsford, New York. So thanks for joining us, Tom. How are you?
Doing good. How you doing?
Good, good. The weather's actually starting to get a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
The snow melt. I think we got a couple 60-degree days or 63-degree days coming up. So I'm looking forward to a little bit warmer weather.
Yeah, I think everybody is. Everybody's looking for a little break from the winter.
Yeah, that's right. And last week too was brutal. It was windy. So not only was it cold, it was windy. So
Right.
definitely looking forward to things opening up. And certainly, not only is the weather, improving, but I feel like business is starting to pick up a little bit. Obviously we have new administration in the White House. I think things are going, I don't know if I'm going to say that they're going well with the vaccination, but people are getting vaccinated. I think I heard on last count there was 6 million people that were vaccinated. I could be wrong in that. But it looks like it's going in the right direction. So people are feeling optimistic. Things are opening up, and 2021 is already looking brighter.
Yeah. I've got my first dose scheduled for March 27th.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
We're navigating our way through the website, and it's certainly not always an easy thing to do. There was like 1,000 appointments open. We hesitated for a minute, and they were gone.
Yeah.
It's coming our way.
Yeah.
So anyways, thanks for joining me today. As I mentioned, you're president of Brookfield Resource Management. Could you tell us a little bit about your business and what you guys do over there?
Yeah, we're a scrap metal recycling business. Well, we focus on scrap metal. We also have a paper recycling division, and we have a construction and demolition transfer station.
And what kind of clients do you guys work with? Do you work with consumers? Do you work with municipalities? Do you work with private enterprise?
We work with municipalities. We work with other businesses, and we work with consumers or homeowners. But it's mostly business to business, mostly contractors, and then the municipalities in Westchester County. And then occasionally we do get homeowners who are looking to dispose of either construction debris or, scrap metal.
And how long have you guys been in business for?
I think it's 52 years, 1968.
That's it?
53 years. Yeah, that's it.
Well,
Predates me, well, kind of predates me, I should say.
And who started the company?
The company was started by my father and uncle in the late 60s, 1968.
And did you start working there young, or did you go do a couple of things and then come back to the company, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I worked here. I worked here from back to the time I can remember, up through high school. Then went to college. Worked up, for 10 or 12 years in the financial services industry, and then came back to the business in 2003.
And what did that do to the business, to have, a different perspective, because if it was your dad and your uncle, and obviously they were, their head was in the business, and probably, I don't know what they did before, but they obviously did it for a long time. So what was that experience like when you, obviously you had another life, another career, and then you brought, your background, your experience into the company?
Yeah, that was part of the plan. Back in 2003, believe it or not, I think at the time there might have been maybe only one computer here. There might have been two, but there wasn't more than that. So a lot of stuff was done, the way it'd been done for a long time. And there was no leverage of technology at all. And the industry had already been changing for a couple of years, where companies within the industry were starting to leverage technology to do things like pay customers, manage inventory, manage shipments, manage receivables, manage paying vendors. Up until that time, it was all done by hand, general ledger work. So there was a lot that could be done on it. We put together a multi-year plan, and just started implementing it from there, and it's grown from there. Now I don't know what we would do without, if our network goes down, it seems like we can't do it the old way anymore. We figure it out, but we try to get the network up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's right. You become dependent on those tools. It's integral to what you do, and I'm sure every part of your business is, uses that technology to move forward.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now it touches every part of the business.
Yep, absolutely. And do you have other locations, or is it just the location in Elmsford?
We have Elmsford, Montrose, and we have a location in Chicago, Illinois.
And what are the differences between those locations?
Um, Montrose is just a smaller version of the scrap metal recycling in Elmsford. Elmsford has the scrap metal recycling, the paper recycling, and the construction and demolition transfer station. And Illinois has a bigger version of the scrap metal recycling.
Oh, interesting. And are they the same company? Are they different companies, or?
Montrose and Elmsford for recycling are the same company. The construction and demolition transfer station is a separate company, and the Chicago operation is a separate company.
So you're actually running a few companies there.
Yeah.
There's got to be some similarities in economies of scale there, but you're really running, three separate companies.
Right. Yeah. We actually have a couple other companies as well, smaller companies.
And can I ask you, what's the head count? How many people do you guys employ?
We have about 78 people in New York, and then about the same in Illinois.
So good size operations.
Yeah.
Were you guys affected by COVID at all?
To a certain degree, a little bit. Fortunately, we are considered essential, so we never had to close down. So what we had to deal with is just trying to keep the employees healthy. So we did what everybody else did. We tried to maintain social distancing, masks, hand sanitizer, just change how everyone was interacting. We did pretty good, all things considered. Fortunately, we didn't have any employees get seriously ill. Initially we had a couple cases, that were, flu-like symptoms, and they were out for the period, the 3-week period of time or whatever it was back then. But then this winter, the beginning of the winter, we got hit a little bit harder in that sort of second wave.
Mm-hmm.
But same thing, we had employees out with flu-like conditions, but got everyone back, and we're still seeing a couple of cases here and there.
Yep.
But I think, like everybody else, we've kind of gotten used to it, and we've got some protocols in place. Obviously, we can get testing a lot quicker than we could last spring.
Sure.
And in that case, that ability to get those tests quickly, get a test quickly, and then get a result quickly helps a lot with trying to manage things accordingly.
Yep.
And now that the vaccines are coming online, that's going to help again. So hopefully another 6-9 months, we're starting to get back to normal, or as close to normal as we can get.
That's right. We touched on that a little bit. I think there's some excitement and there's some pent up demand, and I'm sure you guys will, get your share of that. So, help you move forward there. Yep.
Yeah.
So, as you know, the podcast is called Better, Faster, Stronger, and you're obviously very successful in what you do, and you play a big role in the business community in not only New York, but also in Chicago area. And you've been doing this for a while. So I think you bring a nice perspective, because you had, a bit of a career before, and then you brought, your expertise and your experience into the industry that you're in now. So I think you have a great perspective, and I think that you have a lot that you could share with our listeners. And keeping in the vein of the podcast, Better, Faster, Stronger, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. What have you done to make you better, faster, stronger? And this can be in relation to any aspect of your business. It can be prior to Brookfield or any of your other industries. And there's probably some similarities too. Better, faster, stronger aren't always compartmentalized, and they build on each other. So I can start with the first question. What have you done that has made your company bigger?
Leveraging technology has allowed us to grow the business considerably, both on the sourcing of material side and then the selling of material. You know, we try to get, you know, our typical customer that's bringing us material is, you know, an electrician or a plumber or someone in the trades business, and they're working on a job. Let's say, you know, they're working in a commercial building, and it's an electrician, and they're replacing some part of the electrical infrastructure in the building. What that typically entails is they have to take out the old infrastructure and then install the new infrastructure. So, so what we provide for them is, as they take out the old infrastructure, all the old cabling and wiring and fixtures and everything else, which is predominantly made of metal, they can bring that to us and we purchase that from them. But like everyone says, time is money. So, you know, they're kind of coming by us in between jobs, and the quicker we can get them in and out, the better off they are, and the more likely they are to return. So we've enhanced our whole process of purchasing material. You know, a lot of it used to be manual, where you know, an electrician would come in, we'd weigh the items, we'd handwrite the tickets, we'd do the math with a calculator to calculate everything up, and then we'd send them to a cashier, and then a cashier would double check all the numbers and then count the money out by hand twice just to make sure and hand it. So it could be a lengthy process, and if you have 20 people trying to do that at once, lines form and there's delays, et cetera, so on. And if you have a mistake, it really delays it. So we've introduced quite a bit of technology to speed that up, and we've probably cut the time down by 90%.
Wow.
Over the course of a couple of years, where we've automated a significant amount of that process, where the computers are taking the weights, the computers are generating the tickets and doing all the math and taking digital images of all the material. So we have to review something, we can see it. We essentially have a computer that pays the people, so in the form of a modified ATM. So it's like using a robot to pay people, which, you know, the robots are more reliable. They don't have sick days. They're, you know, they do the same thing over and over again. So we were able to really speed up the process, which then ends up getting us more business. So that's one thing over the last, say, 10 years that we've really we've implemented and enhanced, and it's had a significant impact on the business. It's just really fundamentally changing how we receive and pay for material.
So what does that look like? I mean, when I picture, you know, people bringing in material that's going to be recycled, I think of it coming in. I mean, they're not sorting this in advance, correct? Or do they need to?
They do. You know, some of the guys that know, because if they pre-sort it, it's worth more to them, because we can certainly sort it, but then there's a cost to us. So we try to encourage pre-sorting by paying more for sorted material. This way we don't have to put the labor into it. Some people do that, some people don't, and we can handle it either way.
So say, for example, you're reclaiming, you know, copper wire, right, from workspace. When it comes in, obviously you're gonna weigh it, but how do you know, how much is the coating versus how much is the wire? You know,
Yeah, the guys that, yeah, we really rely, one of the, we need guys who have experience that are inspecting the material. So our inspectors will take a look at the material, and they can generally tell by the makeup of the material. You know, they can tell what kind of job it's coming from, and then we have some general categories they can place the material in if it's not pre-sorted, and we'll place it in those categories, and then it's priced accordingly based on that. So
so
the inspectors will eyeball it and grade it accordingly.
yeah, so there's got to be a little bit of error there, you know, based on you know, who's doing the inspection, and you know,
Yeah,
obviously you can't take 2 hours to analyze every piece that's coming in. You know, you wouldn't be
right,
in business for long if you were doing that, because like you said,
right.
is money. When you're giving somebody a quote for this, or when you're going to be giving them the money because you just reclaimed this stuff, do you tie your systems into, you know, they're essentially commodities, right? So
Yeah,
how often does that get updated? Is that a daily thing? Do your systems tie into something like that?
it's typically not daily, but it's probably closer to weekly.
Hmm.
We'll keep an eye. I keep an eye on the primary metals markets, and that's usually that when we're selling. The majority of our sales are tied to an index on the primary metals markets, so that'll affect how we're buying. So depending on what's going on in the commodities markets, if there's a lot of volatility, the prices will change more frequently. When we get stability, they change less frequently. Another thing we've done is, it used to be we'd get lots of phone calls every day. What's the price of this? What's the price of that? So in the last couple of years, we put up a nice website where our customers can go to the website and they can see what the pricing is that day. And when prices change, they can get on an email or text list. And when there's price changes, they will get notifications. So they get notified right away. They can go to the website and they can check the current price on number one copper wire, or number two copper, or whatever it is they have.
So if somebody was not necessarily in your business, but if they were looking to add some of this automation, how'd you go about doing it? Do you have any advice to somebody that would be, if they wanted to bring more technology into their business, find out how they could do it faster? What's the best place to look for that? Are you talking to peers? Are you going through, trade organizations, industry organizations? What does that look like? How did you identify the best technology to bring in?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think it's trying to go find the guys who are using best practices within the industry. So if you can find companies that are staying ahead of this stuff and staying in front of this stuff, and going to see how they do it, and then talk to them about what the benefits are, but also talk to them about, well, what mistakes were made, right? I find you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes, right? Because the things that are successful, okay, great, that was great. Let's get on to the next thing. But
That's a common theme amongst business owners, I think, right?
Right. It's almost if you're not making mistakes, you're not really. I find you're not really learning. So you make a mistake, you're like, okay, what went wrong there? What do we need to change? What can we do better? But going out to companies that are sort of on the leading edge, talking to them, seeing what they were successful with, finding out how they got there, what mistakes were made along the way. So that's one aspect of it. Going to utilizing the industry as a whole, going to trade shows, trade shows that are going to showcase, new technology for the industry, whether that's, equipment we use, material handlers, or true technology in the form of software. So spending time at trade shows and really just talking to all the vendors, finding out who they're selling to, trying to get with the companies they're selling to see how they're using it. And it's one thing to look at technology or equipment at a trade show. That's great, but then you really got to get on the ground and see how it's being used, how long it's been used, what are the problems, what are the things that make your life easier. So it's time consuming. And I would say, from our perspective, we try to put together like a long-term, medium-term, and short-term plan, and try not to do too much at one time. Set it up so that, okay, what are we trying to do in the next 6 months? What are we trying to do in the next 12 months? And then taking that out, what are we trying to do in the next 5 years? But the focus is really on the near term and not trying to do too much at once. Set up some manageable stuff, implement it, tweak it, get it going the way we want it going. Hopefully it works the way we want it to work and we have the success we want. Great. If not, change it, get it to where we want it to be, and then move on to the next thing. If you get too many balls in the air, one or two of them is going to hit the ground.
I like to call it boiling the ocean. You can't boil the ocean.
No.
You can only address a couple things at a time,
Right.
It's not because you're incapable. I mean, it's impossible. You can't do that many things well at once. You can only pick one or two things that you're going to focus on, and that's a good way to go about it. So something else that we do too, and thank you for the information that you shared there. But something else we do too, we depend on our trade organizations. So we're part of peer groups that do what we do. Tarrytech is what we call managed service provider. So we align ourselves with the best. And you could see companies that are larger or maybe more progressive in some of the areas that we're looking to get into. We see what they're doing. and that can be a good source, if you're trying to identify ways that you can improve your business or find new products or new solutions. That's been really helpful as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that. Let's move on to the next question. So we talked about what made you bigger. How about better? And that's a generic term, but it could be anything to do with your culture, your people, your processes, your billing, anything that you would say has made you better and has had a profound effect on your company.
I would say the biggest thing from that perspective is having the right people. I think that by far, out of any one aspect, is the most important thing to making the company better. We can have great equipment, we can have great technology, we can have great market conditions, but if you don't have the right people, to a certain degree, it's not going to matter. So it's really focusing on trying to hire the right people and put them in the right position within the company and let them do their thing. They're there to do their job, and if they're the right person, they're going to get it done. And that, to me, is the most important thing to keeping the company good and better.
Moving on to the next question, how about faster? And you've touched on some of those things as well. You have a lot of different businesses, a lot of different locations, a lot of moving parts. Like you said, you have to be in communication with people that you're buying from, people that you're selling to. So what have you done that has made things faster? And again, I know that you mentioned technology, but is there anything else that you can mention along that line?
I mean, technology is definitely probably the biggest key to be able to move faster. Analyzing physical processes and just analyzing how we're handling material. In our world, every time you touch something, there's a cost associated with it. There's both a time cost associated with it, and then there's a financial cost associated with it. So it's looking at workflow, and if you're taking certain materials, how are you from the time they enter the facility to the time they leave? What does that sort of life cycle look for, like for that material? So if today it's a 12-step process, and you can cut that down to a 10-step process, that can speed some things up for us and make us more efficient.
Do you have a process around there? So, like the process management mindset within your company where you say, okay, this quarter, we're going to look at these 3 processes. We need to improve these things. And maybe you put together a plan for the full year of the things that you're going to be addressing. And do you have a team around that, or do you have a methodology around that?
Yeah, we do. We kind of look at it quarterly. Well, we look at it annually and then quarterly. And we'll try to identify, like in the 3rd or 4th quarter of any year, say, okay, for next year, what are we looking at? What are we going to focus on? And then we'll start kind of kicking that around, and then slowly formalize the process and who's going to focus on it and what the timeline's going to be and what the goals are going to be, and ultimately where we want to end up on it. A good example would be working with you on, like last year, one of the bigger focuses was really tightening up technical security.
Yep. And when you do something like that, internally in your company, do you assign a team, or do you assign like a team lead on something like that, and they pull together a team where you discuss this by committee, or is it what does that look like in your company?
It depends on the scale, the scale and the scope. Yeah, there'll be a team to a certain degree. It could be a small team, or depending on the size of the project, be a larger team. And then we'll assign it like a point person for it, and then the team will, meet with, depending on who's on the team will have a regular meeting with management on, progress and any changes to the overall plan.
Yeah, and it's so important to do that, to pick a couple processes, every quarter. And it's amazing, just a couple small changes over time can make a huge difference in regards to streamlining your operations. It really does.
Yeah.
I also think that it sets a tone and a message in the organization that you don't just rest on your laurels, that that you're always looking at improving. And I think it's a
Right.
mindset in the company too, so that we have other people that are coming to us then, and they're bringing ideas on how we can improve our processes and make things faster. So I think it's important to focus on that. It's important to deliver on that stuff, but I think it's also important to set that, get that mindset and create that culture within your company, that that's the kind of company that you want to be progressive, and you're always looking to make things better in that respect.
Right. Yeah, we definitely, that's a big thing for us. It's we kick around the phrase, the only constant is, the only constant is change. All the time we're looking to change, for the better. We're identifying things we can improve.
Yeah, and that's so true. So moving on to the last question, stronger. What have you done that has made your company stronger? Whether that is, you build in some redundancy, you build in some extra people, maybe you're strengthening your client relationships, maybe you're building your team and making them stronger in their knowledge or industry experience. If you could talk about that a little bit and share some of your thoughts around stronger.
I think for us, stronger is diversification, because the primary business, the recycling business, the metals recycling business, is at the end of the day a commodities business. So we have exposure to the commodities markets, and when it's good, and when it's not good, it can be really bad.
You can't control that.
You have no control over it. Absolutely no control over it. Over the course of a 5 to 7 year period, the swings in the commodity markets can be tremendous. So we've historically had exposure there, and we can manage through it. But when it's tough, it's tough. So what we've done a couple years ago, we opened the construction and demolition transfer station, which is not exposed to the commodities industry. So that's given us a little bit of a balance. That's mostly exposed to the building industry, and there's a nice lag between when commodities tend to start to trade down. The building industry is still trading up, and then vice versa. As the building industry is coming down, they sort of lag each other. So it gives us some coverage.
Yeah, because I got to believe, a company your size with the number of employees that you have, with the number of buildings, and there's got to be some pretty serious equipment there that you have to maintain. So your overhead can be quite high.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so any kind of change, let alone a significant change, can have, a profound effect on your business.
Right. Yeah. Yep. The overhead is there every day, no matter what.
That's right.
If you can, there's a big difference between being able to sell a ton of steel for $75 and $375.
Yeah.
The overhead's the same, no matter, what the value of that ton of steel.
Yeah.
And that's, when it trades down, it, builds the pressure. That's for sure.
Is that market more volatile now than it used to be? Go back 20 years ago. Do you think that market was more, commodities market was more stable, or has it been about the same and it's just kind of the way that it is, and your company has learned to adapt to that?
It seems a little bit different, not too different, but it's the cycles are about the same. It's really like a 5 to 7 year cycle between highs and lows. But the differences we've seen in the last couple cycles is the lows are a little lower, the highs are a little higher, and the lows linger a little longer, but the highs linger. So the peaks and the valleys stretch out a little bit. So it is a little different, but not dramatically different.
And when did you add the construction recycling component, if I said that correctly?
Yeah, that actually the middle of March will be 4 years.
Wow. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and it's nicely progressed year over year. The growth of that business is really progressed nicely.
So you've figured that out, and clearly your company is stronger because of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Predictable income is certainly a better way to run.
Yeah, and at the time we were thinking of expansion within the scrap metal business. We're thinking maybe another location, a bigger plant. So we were thinking about that, but then we changed gears and decided to just diversify and build the transfer station, and that's worked out really well for us.
Great, great. Well, thank you. So what's new or what's coming up for Brookfield this year?
You know, we're hoping that everything with COVID kind of normalizes. We don't have anything big this year, but I think, you know, coming into the fourth year of the construction demolition business, you know, it being going into its fifth year, I think we'll start to think about, okay, what's another good big project for us? We don't have anything in mind. We have a couple ideas, but you know, we're probably towards the end of the year we'll start to think about, you know, another bigger project along those lines.
Yeah, you're still in talks on the big projects.
Yeah.
So one last question that I like to ask is, you know, if you could go back to yourself and you know, knowing what you know now and the experience that you have now, and talk to yourself in the beginning of your career, what would be the one piece of advice that you would share with yourself that would have served you well in the last X number of years that you've been at this?
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's great.
You got plenty of time. Just put a good plan together, execute, and you know, everything doesn't have to happen all at once. You know, it all comes, you know, and there's nothing wrong with mistakes. You know, you learn a lot from mistakes. Don't be afraid to you know, to have many failures.
Yeah.
Nothing is perfect. You can't plan for perfection. You'll never get anything done.
I think that that's sage advice. You know, you can't look at, you know, the success of your company or the growth of your company in small chapters, right? You have to look at it. You know, you have to frame it with a longer time frame. You know, because
definitely.
You have good days, you have bad days, and I think that alludes to your sprint, right? You can't maintain that sprint attitude.
No.
You know, because it's not a healthy way to look at it, you know, and I think that you'll tire easily that way, you know. But if you look at it as a marathon and you just keep a pace, you know, you do, you know, 1 foot forward every day, you know, a little bit of progress, and over time it's significant. Even if you do have some setbacks along the way, it can happen in any business.
Yeah, and I would say the other big thing looking back, if I was talking to my younger self, is, you know, delegate. You can't do everything yourself. You know, there's just not enough hours in the day. You know, like we were talking about, you know, hire the right people and delegate. And that goes a long way.
Yeah, and it comes back to the people too, you know, putting your trust in good people, make sure you have the right people on the bus. And, you know, it certainly starts there. And if you have the right people, then it certainly makes it easier to delegate.
Yep, absolutely.
Something else that we've done too, you know, when you delegate like that, I think you have to compartmentalize what they do too. You can't have everybody doing everything. And I think that's kind of what you're saying there too. You have to set up, you know, what success is going to look like in those roles. What are you delegating? What is it that you need to do? When does it start? When does it stop? It doesn't need to be rigid, but they have to have a very specific set, because otherwise they won't get critical mass in what they're delivering.
Right. It's, you know, it's kind of, I like to give the analogy, it's like a baseball manager. You know, is this person a shortstop, or, you know, are they a left fielder, or are they a catcher? You know, and you want to find the right spot for them, and then give them the tools and what they need to thrive, whether they're the shortstop, the left fielder, or the catcher. And, you know, my job is to, you know, or our management's job is to try to figure that out and put them in the right position and position them to succeed.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your thoughts on what has made Brookfield better, faster, and stronger. Be sure to check out our other podcasts at www.bfsmetro.com. And we wish you all the best of luck and success in health in 2021. So thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you.